Good morning, everyone. Hello from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way in the United States. The topic today is how do you let go of living in the past? So, for many people out there, we've experienced activities or events that may have negatively impacted our lives. Some of these events carry an emotional scar or still heaviness, burdens, and resentments. But this is a common thing that as humans, we can all share with one another. However, the thing that stands out to me is there are some people who are able to navigate through these issues quickly, seamlessly, and they're able to resolve it and get past it. And then there are others who take a bit more time. They can get stuck in the events that happened or the hardship that happened in the past, and it negatively affects them up to this point. And for me, I wanted to share a tool or a perspective that may be helpful for anyone who is still carrying this burden of living in the past. So I think what would be helpful and appropriate in this instance is just to share some personal stories. And for myself is I can relate when people talk about hardships and the struggles that they've been through. And for mine is two specific ones that really stands out. The first one is just coming to the United States as an immigrant and as a refugee. And for myself is I was born in a country next to Thailand, a country called Laos. And at that time, there was communism and there was a war going on. So myself and my family, we escaped there. And in this transition, we were caught by the military. We were held at gunpoint and everything that we had was taken from us. And they put our family into a refugee camp in Thailand. Then after that, they moved us to a refugee camp in the Philippines. And then for myself, I came to the United States when I was 5 years old. So you can imagine as a little boy, this event was so traumatic and scary. And I remember being taken to kindergarten at that time. And I didn't understand anything. I didn't even know where I was. I didn't know what was going on. And for myself, all I wanted was just to be at home and to be with my parents and with my family. So keep in mind at that time, the language was different. I couldn't understand. The culture was so strange and foreign to me and no one looked like me. The schedule again was very unique and I was not in this position before, and the adjustment here just took a long time. All I know is it was just quite scary and it was also quite traumatic to the point where each day I was just thrown up in class because again the stimulus of the external world was a bit too much for me. But slowly for myself, I took time to adapt, and it took many, many years and all of my childhood to get to a point where I started to assimilate into the Western culture and specifically to living in San Diego. The second incident that really shaped me and was the most difficult was a breakup. And this breakup for me of a long-term relationship absolutely destroyed me. So if anyone who has experienced this, you can relate, where it just takes all of your identity, it takes your sense of self, it destroys all the plans and the future that you had or the fantasies and the idea that you had of what was to come. The white picket fence, the beautiful home, the having children and a wedding, all those at that point was gone. This was the event that took me to my knees, if I can use those words, but it impacted me deeply and it took quite a long time for healing and for me to get beyond this point. So now looking back at these two events, because it's been many, many years since then, there's been much healing and much perspective that was gained regarding these issues. But now I can see that really in life, there's two options. One is that you can get stuck, stay in the events and attach to them. And the second option that I wish I knew a long time ago was really you can look at it from a wisdom lens. And the wisdom lens is that you just take what is helpful, you take what is good or the learning lessons that you got from that experience and just take only the good stuff and integrate that into yourself and then continue on. And the analogy that I feel like best illustrates this is like a juicer. How many of you have ever tried the kind of juicer where you put in the fruit, you put in vegetables, you put it in this machine and it blends it or it strains it and it just takes out the best of the nutrients, the good part of the vegetables and the fruits, and it takes out the pulp and the seeds and it discards that. But for me, this is the analogy that comes to my mind, where in our life, all the things and all the hardships that we've been through, give it some time to just cool down, to settle. And again, when we've been talking about this, where use the skill of meditation, which is neutral observation. Look at your life and just all the facts. Put all the events or the activity into this juicer and blend it and let it come out on the other side. And for yourself, is just take the good parts and take the good qualities, the virtues, the learning lessons, and then just keep going. And for myself is, I don't know how I got to the point. I don't know if it was just a maturity thing, meditation, a combination of a lot of things. But like I said, it just took me a long time to get to this point, and that's why I wanted to offer someone these tools. But now, looking back is when I look at the experience with coming as a refugee and an immigrant to the United States, what I take is the good qualities such as the work ethic. And when you come from this environment and background, one of the things that being a refugee gives you and develops in you is this work ethic, this resiliency where you can just keep going. And I know I'm not the smartest person out there, but what I can say is I'm a hard worker. And you're just instilled in this quality. And I can outwork people, because that's what I know. And this is the thing that I needed for survival. Another thing that it taught me from this experience and gave me is this ability to observe. Because when I was in school or when I was transitioning as a child, keep in mind, I didn't know how to speak my own native language. I didn't know how to speak Thai because I transitioned quickly. I didn't know how to speak Tagalog from the Philippines. And when I came to the United States, I didn't know how to speak English. So when I was in that classroom without the ability of language, then I developed a skill of being very observant. People spoke to me, but for some reason, when you don't have the skill of language, you're able to interpret and you're able to pick up on people's intentions and cues very quickly. You're saying a lot or you're not saying anything at all, but from being in your presence as a child who was in this environment, I can pick up on what you're actually conveying to me. So this is a skill that I hold dear to my heart. Another thing that being a refugee and an immigrant has cultivated in me is this gratitude. And for me, when I do get things, when I do accomplish things or any material things that I have, I'm just very happy for it because we never had those kind of things before. So to have the opportunity of pursuing a life, to have an opportunity to be alive because I shouldn't be alive, it just gives me an outlook where I want to fully develop myself. Then with that, then help others. And because of that, it's just, again, like I said, it's instilled in me. And also a last thing that comes to the top of my mind is when you come from that background and environment, you just have this deep sense of empathy for others. When they're suffering, when people do not feel like they fit into a place, for me, I can empathize. When they carry a heaviness of a burden of an experience that deeply impacts them, and for me, again, I can actually feel what they're going through. So these are the qualities and the characteristics that I value and hold dearly to my heart, and I take it with me, and it becomes part of me, and it also becomes part of my strengths and the tools that I continue to use. The same thing with the breakup too. Was so difficult, but now looking back, I can genuinely say this was the best thing that had ever happened to me. The things that I did, some of the things I was not proud of, the things that were done to me, I'm not happy about, but again, I can now see it neutrally. We all did the things we did with the perspective and the wisdom we knew at that point. But for me, I leave all that behind and I learn and I cultivate the good things. And the good things really is that this breakup taught me that happiness doesn't come externally. It taught me how to mature myself, to validate my own feelings, to encourage me and motivate me myself, not to get that from the outside environment. Yes, when it's there, it can be helpful, but I think it just took me to a deeper understanding. And also another thing that it taught me, and this was a big one, was how to cultivate joy from inside. And I did not have that, again, because a lot of my joy came out from external things. But when my world collapsed, it gave me an opportunity to rebuild this. It rebuilt myself and gave me the ability to see, what do you want with your life? Where are you going? What are your values? What are the things that are important to you? And are you living up to your full potential? So it brought the spotlight back on me. So as a result, it just matured me greatly. And for me, this is what I wanted to share and to leave with anyone who is suffering and have a difficult time letting go of the past. These unresolved issues can keep us stuck. And for me, I just want to say that I've been there and I can fully relate. But I wanted to give you a second option. And the second option is hopefully it gets to a point where the being stuck and the ruminating does not help you, and to the point where it can negatively harm you and stunt your growth emotionally, physically, spiritually. It can keep you trapped in that environment. So if possible, take some time to let everything cool down. Again, with meditation, develop the skill of neutral observation and look at your life. Just facts. Here, this is what happened. And I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to minimize anyone's experience because I know people go through big traumas. Working as a licensed marriage and family therapist before, the trauma that we encounter was unimaginable. From the abuse, from emotional abuse and physical abuse, but it is just endless. So again, I'm not trying to discount that. But again, coming back to, it comes to a point where holding on to that memory, holding on to some of the heaviness may not be helpful anymore. So with that, I'm hoping you can use this lens of juicing your life. Take that event that was not so pleasant, put it in this juicer, let it do its work, and just take the good things. Because again, everything, it's like a double-edged sword. And there can be negative events, but on the other hand, there can also be an opportunity. So then we can just look at our lives with this lens of moving forward, this lens of taking the things that are healthy, that you can utilize and integrate into yourself, and then use it as a strength. So this is not easy, but this is just a perspective that maybe you can try and utilize it into your own life. And if you need to still hold on to the past, that's an option. I'm not trying to push or convince or anything. But then I also want to present another side. And again, the other side is use the lens of wisdom, because we need you. We need you healthy. We need you strong. And what I find is that people like you who have been through a difficult time, if you can resolve these issues, if you can come to a resolution, I find that you are the people who will help to shift this world, and we need you so desperately, especially in this environment with so much suffering. To have people who are practitioners, who do not get stuck in the past and use anything that has happened to them, overcome it, and then be an inspiration for the world. So hopefully this is helpful. But again, as always, from Atlanta, Georgia, wanted to share this tidbit and hope you are all safe and well. Satu.